Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Worldwide Football. As always, I'm your host, Connor Pojuelo, here with my co-host, Matthew. I can't wait to get out of Rockville, Maryland, Rothman. And yes, the countdown is only a few days left, which is pretty much the end of the week when the man can finally say goodbye and good riddance to Rockville, Maryland. Pretty much what Liverpool said to Darwin Núñez on his way out the door in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, pretty much. Matt is almost out of Maryland. Matt, how's it feel counting the days down?
Well, yeah, it's certainly as good as you finally getting rid of that Darwin Núñez haircut as soon as he left, or at least before it.
Call it convenient timing. What can we
Yeah.
say? Anyways, lads, it is time. The season starts this weekend. We are going to have a lot of heartbreak and a lot of sorrow and a lot of misery and a lot of heartache. But at the very least, that'll all end when Ter Statue finally leaves my club. Other than that, it should be a pretty fun season. More fun for some other clubs than others. Not naming any names, but now we're going to get into the part that everyone gets into before the end of before the start of the season, and that is predictions. Now, the way we're going to go about predictions is fairly simple. We're going to split instead of going through 20 teams or 24 if you count Bundesliga. We are just going to sort out the teams by
Well, 18
five
for
categories.
Bundesliga, but
Oh,
yeah.
18.
Thinking of championship, man.
I am thinking of championship, man. We are going to go like this. We are going to do best who's going to win the league, who's getting relegated, top four, dark horse, and biggest disappointment, or just the most overrated team that will likely disappoint the most. So let's start off with everyone's favorite league, the Premier League. So, Matt, I'll let you start off. In your opinion, who do you see winning the Premier League this season?
Yeah, it's a very tough one for sure because I think, Liverpool really they won last season without making any signings. Now they're on their way to a very generational, window
Wait
in the
though.
sense.
Remember,
Yeah.
we can't. It's dangerous to use that logic. Now
Well,
remember,
close to it.
Chelsea made top four with a team full of kids, and then the season after, where they were able to make signings,
Yeah.
completely collapsed off of the roof.
But yeah, on paper, they're very close to a generational window in the sense like signing, a lot of the big ticket items, in each position. And from the latest reports, they're, trying to get Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace. That would be a really good signing to fortify their back line. But even though they won last season, and I think they will still contend, I have Man City winning this year, mainly because I just think, with Pep Guardiola, you know, coming off of last season when they won nothing at all, I don't think he's gonna allow, something like last season happen again. So I think City does win the league. I do have Liverpool finishing second. As for third place, it's a toss-up, I would say, between Arsenal and Chelsea. I think Chelsea is definitely going to be up there as they were this past season. I'd say, Arsenal third, Chelsea fourth. But yeah, that's my top four for the Premier League with City winning it.
With the signings that they've made so far, yeah, clearly brought in with the notable ones being Reijnders from Milan, Cherki, another playmaker to replace De Bruyne,
Which I really like
and
as well.
most recently with the news of Donnarumma accepting personal terms with City to fortify the keeper spot because Ederson's been washed for about a year now. What do you make of this very exciting potential City team at the moment?
Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of potential in that team. I think Tijani Reinders is certainly a great signing for that midfield. I think Cherky is a guy that I really wanted at Bayern, and he comes at a very discounted price to save for City, and I think he'll do really well there. They got a few other signings, some younger signings. They are basically gonna get two keepers, Trafford and then Donnarumma when he signs. Uh I will say I'm not as high on the Donnarumma signing as others are, and it's not to say that he's a bad goalkeeper. He's definitely world class and one of the best shot stopping goalkeepers in the world. I just don't know how well that's going to fit Pep Guardiola, that philosophy of wanting a keeper that is really good with their feet and sort of can, be that sleeper kind, whereas Donnarumma isn't really that. Um, so I think at the very least, you get a goalkeeper that is very good at shot stopping if that's all you need, which I think will definitely help them out. And of course, Rodri coming back for a full season will certainly be a big part of them. So I think with that and also the signings, while the signings may take some time, I think they'll get into a rhythm at some point. Um, at least the main ones like Cherky and Reinders, to where like they'll be able to solidify themselves in that team.
I understand that. For me, just because of the debt that Liverpool currently have, and like I said, if they do click well together, that's almost GG's for 'em- for practically everybody. And there's still no report on whether or not they are going to sign Isak. But if they really do sign Isak with the quality of wingers that they have at the moment and the midfielders, it's looking quite dangerous.
Yeah, I do wonder what's going to happen on that front because it came out basically this early morning. David Ornstein reported that Isak is very adamant about not wanting to play for Newcastle anymore. So, if this becomes a situation where, it's Liverpool or nothing, if Liverpool decide to bite the apple, and they get him, then, that'll be a very interesting, team overall. A lot of changes there, but a lot of talent. But if they don't end up biting it, then it seems like it becomes basically another Victor Osimhen situation, where a player doesn't want to play for a team doesn't want a player in the sense. And
Yeah,
yeah,
because he practically already burnt that bridge. Anyways, my top, so I would say Liverpool might could win the league again. And City, I actually would say it'd be a close contest for second between City and Chelsea. And the reason why we've seen what we've seen so far with Chelsea in the Club World Cup, they
yeah,
say
they've
what they
been
want
really
about the
good.
teams that they've played, but or at least in their bracket, but they did manage to beat the champions, or at least big teams in the with Real Madrid, PSG. So I would say that there's someone to definitely look out for. I wouldn't say title contenders just yet because to me their biggest weakness will still be their back line. While Cucurella is incredible, they still have very
Center
little
back pairing
decent
is not
quality
great.
center backs. And of course, you have Robert Sanchez in goal, which is already a ticking time bomb. And Reece James, you can never really trust the guy to stay fit for more than like 5 consecutive games. And Gusto, well, I mean, he's good, but I wouldn't know
Yeah.
about title quality winning
I think they still need
right
something
back.
in that back line and at goalie because, as you said, Sanchez,
Levi Colwill is injured. He has the ACL. He's out for a
yeah, and he's
season
out for the whole
already.
season. That's why it's sort of a mess there.
So yeah, honestly, this with all the reinforcements that they made in their front line with with the inclusion of João Pedro, who I think is going to be incredible, Jamie Gittins as well, possibly adding Garnacho, Liam Delap with the include
Garnacho.
Messinho, otherwise known as Esteval from
Estevao.
Palmeiras, um, and of course when you have Cole Palmer in there, it's chance creation for everybody. So I honestly think that this could be a very promising season for Chelsea. So this is the first time for a while that I'm saying Chelsea will actually do very well this year. Um,
Which
like I
means they
s-
won't do well because you jinx everything.
well, lad, we'll see how many L's I take this season, all right? Because I'm notoriously known for that. Anyways, like I said, so my fourth place would be Arsenal. Putting a tribute to Arsene Wenger from all the times they used to finish fourth in the league. I think what they've done so far, Nogard, Zubamendi, they got rid of Partey, they brought in Gyökeres as well. I just I still don't see it yet. Especially with the way Arsenal have played this past year, and especially a lot of Arsenal fans themselves during preseason. It's just I know Arteta's trying to figure out how to utilize the team now that he finally has a striker, but I don't know. I think it might have ran its course this time because I think
Yeah, I
now
think
it's getting a little too predictable, and his football's starting to become a little bit too lethargic at
yeah, I think you
times.
sort of hit it on the head. It has become very predictable in that sense. And I think that, they brought in good pieces. I think Zubimendi is a great signing for that midfield, especially to, replace Partey, who was there last season, who rightfully left. Gyökeres, of course, at striker. Um, you know, there are questions, of course, as to, at his age, 27 or so, is he able to find that click in the Premier League this time around that he didn't find the first time around with Brighton? And while I think that's a good signing, in itself, I think a lot of the questions remains mostly with Arteta because, we've seen it basically last year. We even saw it the year before in some of the games that they lost. Like there doesn't seem to be any sort of changes, tactically if it's not going right. I mean, we saw many times this past season people tend to blame the injuries, but that team tactically, they had really one thing where, was try to get to the wings, see if Saka or Martinelli, could make anything happen. And then, that's basically what their game plan was. Anytime they got it to Odegaard, who we'll mention later, he would always be pass first in the sense. Like there wasn't many times where you would have a guy like Odegaard shooting. So there wasn't really that unpredictability with them. And as you said, it was so predictable to where there was no change on, this player's task needs to be like this. We'll have Saka maybe go out a little bit wider, maybe send in another guy from the midfield into the box for a late run for a cross. There was never that sort of change. And I think that's where, a lot of the criticism, and it is
I
right
mean,
to
you
say,
have box crushers
Arteta.
like you have, what's his Nwaneri, who's also, who could be utilized on the wing, but also very good in an attacking sense in order to drive the ball up. And of course, you have Marino, who we've seen this past season
They played as a
do
nine,
very
basically.
played as a center half, but has also done very well when it comes to his the box to box role at the very least. And with the reinforcements that's now in the midfield, I would hope that someone like Marino would be able to fit in here much better. But yeah, no, now with the inclusion of Zubamendi, Norgard as backup, which is fantastic midfield depth to say the least from for Arsenal. I would still say their biggest weakness is the fact that they really don't have a proper left winger because Martinelli doesn't count, and for some reason, Madueke is constantly being played
I
there for
sometimes
whatever
forget they
reason.
signed Madueke, and that was still one of the most like controversial like signings from a financial standpoint this whole window.
Yeah, it was like what, 40, 50 million.
Yeah, 50 million pounds basically was crazy.
Yeah, no, who could honestly understand that? Well, when we're going into the relegations, I would say my first pick is definitely Sunderland. Mm, I want to say Leeds, but I don't want to put too many teams that only recently got promoted. You know what? I'll come back to this. Matt, you give me your three, you give everyone your three predictions for relegation.
Yeah, I'd say it's a tough one. I would say I think Wolves goes down. I think, given some
Mm.
of the players that they lost, Nori, as well as Cunha, that would definitely take a big hit. So I think they'd go down. I'd say Sunderland stays up. I just think with the signings they made, getting a lot of experience in there, along with plenty of talent, I think they're sort of built just to survive at the very least. So I'd say I think Leeds go down. And the last one's a bit difficult. Man, that'll be tough to find the last one. I think Everton stay up, so I'm not gonna say Everton,
They
but
somehow always find a way to stay up. I don't know what
I'll
it is. They have
say
Grealish
this
now.
one may be controversial, but I think Brentford could possibly go down. I think
Interesting.
with a lot of the guys they've lost, they're about to lose Visa too. Like, I think they had a lot of the talent last year. And we always tend to see like a team that, seems to be like mid-table good at some point. The next season, they sort of slide down to the bottom and are fighting relegation. Most of the time, they stay up, but there are times where, they end up getting unlucky and going down. So, yeah, I mean, like you, I didn't want to put it could like very likely could happen that two teams that just got promoted go back down. So it could be a Leeds, Burnley, and then of course I'd keep Wolves in there. But it was one of those where I'm not going to say all three,
I
championship.
would keep Wolves, but I would also say I'm staying with Sunderland. I'm most likely I'm going to stick with Leeds. I'm somehow saying that Burnley will still somehow manage to stay up this time. But for my third pick for relegation, I'm going with West Ham.
Yeah, I could see that too. I mean, they were in a lot of limbo as well.
Like say what you want about, Graham Potter, but it's just the quality that the team has, at least on paper, is just really not up to co.
It's really Jared
Um,
Bowen and a bunch of others.
yeah, pretty much. So I'm not sure how exactly they'll manage to survive this time. They honestly got very fortunate. last season, especially when you had United giving everyone points for free as well as Tottenham.
Yeah.
By the way, for those two, I'm saying Spurs will finish seventh, and I'm saying United will finish 10th. Those are my predictions for those bums. At least one of those bums is a European champion. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, those are my relegation pick. The dark horse, I would like to say Palace, but I don't know how they're going to be able to cope with European ball. But Glasner has done incredibly well so far, and well, with the loss of Gay, we'll see what with the loss of Gay, but. Yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens in that regard. And Eze, because deadline day is ticking down, and we still don't know what Eze's future is. If he's gonna leave or if he's gonna stay. So I guess we'll find out. So I would say my dark horse. This might be controversial. Fulham. I'm gonna go with Fulham as my dark. Fulham to me are always a solid mid-table side, but I think they could at least push for top 8 this time.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely thinking of Fulham as a potential team to do that. I mean, th this one for Dark Horse is a bit tough because I can't see Bournemouth getting up there this time, given some of the talents that they lost. Brighton's already in there, so I don't really think they'd count as a dark horse. So
Nah,
basically,
Brighton aren't really a dark horse. They've
so
had
you're
European
basically
ball
for me, it's
before.
down to Brentford, Everton, and then of course United and Tottenham. They finished, down last season, which everyone knows are going to be back up. So
Hmm.
for the sake of this, I'll just say Everton mainly because like I think they'll do better than last season, given that they were so bad to start the season last year. They blew all these leads. But I think they sort
And then
of
they got David Moyes back.
yeah. And then they sort of picked it up, and I think some of their new signings, like I really like the Osnu signing. I think he'll do really well, even though, there does seem to be some changes that he does have to make character-wise, but I think he's a talented enough signing to where I think
Man's
he'll do
talking
well
about
there.
character wise, like they didn't sign an alcoholic. Anyways, that does it for the Premier League. Let's move on to Matthew's League, the Bundesliga. So, Matt, with the signings that Bayern made, which the most notable one being Luis Diaz, do you see
I
you
mean, they made
guys
one
winning?
signing.
Do you see you guys winning the title again with the competition you guys have?
I mean, there's not exactly that much competition if we're being that honest.
You don't think Leverkusen or maybe even Dortmund could
Leverkusen,
push?
they've lost pretty much everyone, bro.
Well, they have
They lost Verts, they lost Shaka, Taw's gone,
honestly,
Frimpong's
does
gone.
talk really well for the system. I would say for Xavi's system, it would have been more of a beneficial.
That
We'll
is
see what it
true.
does with Ten Hag. Um, yeah, honestly, this might just be Bayern's year again. So
Yeah,
let's
I
get
mean,
into the more fun. Let's get into the more fun one,
but
which is
yeah,
the
I mean,
top four.
yeah, top four. I think, of course, Bayern that top. Personally, I think Leverkusen they'll be fifth, so I don't have them there. But I do
Fifth. Wow,
have,
you really, you just really
yeah.
don't rate Ten Hag, do you?
Well, it's not Ten Hag, it's just they lost too many talents. I mean, like if you expect to replace five, six players in that
Oh, they replaced
team,
Ta with Kwanzaa.
yeah, that's an okay signing, but they haven't really exactly replaced Vert or
You still have
Xhaka.
Schick. You still have Grimaldo. Frimpong, yes, I can give you. That's a big loss. They
But the
still have.
thing with Schick though is that you still need some outlet there, and the problem is they had Verts last season and you had Frimpong to overlap. Now they don't have that. So Schick, like in itself, although he's a good striker, he's one that relies on a heavy amount of service, because he's not the greatest when it comes to link up play. So yeah, it would be a question as to, would they be able to find, that
You
replacement
definitely
for
want your striker to get a
Verts?
lot more involved. So it honestly begs to see how Ten Hag will utilize the striker because he launched his strikers to be a lot more involved.
Yeah.
And obviously the service is crucial, but you also need your striker to work in an Eric Ten Hag system.
Yeah, so I'd say second, I think they rebound because as much criticism as I've given them in the past, I think this is the level of coaching that he's good for. So I think Dortmund finished second with Niko Kovac at the helm. Um, Third, I want to say Frankfurt repeat, although I think that'll be a lot closer this time around, and I'll put Freiburg at four.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then
Feel
fifth,
like you were. It feels
Leverkusen,
like
and
you
sixth
might have
is
been
Leipzig.
excluding someone.
Well, Leipzig would be probably the only other team, maybe. Um, but I think as well, like
I
same
mean,
as
with the loss of Sheshko, may that might be
and
a
then
bit of a
Simmons
bump
is also likely gonna leave too.
there. All
And
right,
then
who do you see getting
Openda also
relegated?
was relegation, I think. Granted, there's the playoff spot, so it'll be maybe different, but I think Heidenheim go down. And I think Cologne go down. So
Cone.
I think, yeah, one team that just got promoted will go down along with Heidenheim. And then I think that 16th position, which is the playoff, will be São Pauli.
I was having São Paulo being relegated straight away, along with Heidenheim. As far as playoff position goes, I was gonna have either Stuttgart if they were to lose Stiller,
Really?
but I don't think they
Stuttgart.
will. I said if they were to lose Stiller, although I don't see him leaving,
I mean, their team
so
is
they'll
still
probably
really
finish.
solid. I mean,
I'd
it's not,
say they'll probably be
may
mid-table
not be
again.
European, level good, but still pretty
I don't want
solid.
to say
That's,
Hamburger because I think they might actually do
I
well
think
enough this
Hamburg
season to
stay up.
stay up. Hmm. Honestly, this might be a tough one. Who do I see? Oh, I know. Gladbach.
Really?
I mean, think about, what we've seen from Gladbach over the years, but also at the same time, what we've seen players come and go, and at the moment, I still don't see like all the qual like I still think that Seone is a good manager, but I just with this team, like think about it. Their best player that you could say one of them, or at least the one that was known to be one of their top players at one point was Neuhaus.
Yeah.
Um, I
They
don't know
still have
what the hell
Kimmich,
happened to
who's
him.
very solid, but
He's all right, but to me, it still doesn't seem like a team that will be like exactly. I'd say like that's why I say I have them at playoffs. Like I'd see them going low, like at least like lower mid table, but I do see them this season to the point where they can actually drop towards close to the bottom towards relegation. I do
hmm,
think they'll survive somehow.
yeah,
They'll somehow stay in the Bundesliga if they do win the playoffs. I just see them getting to that level. Um, as for
interesting.
uh as for surprise this season for a dark horse, I mean, I could say Stuttgart, but we're there. You guys are literally playing a Super Cup against them this weekend, so I'm gonna pick someone else. I am going to pick. Uh, well, you've got Freiburg at top four. I can't really pick them.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
you can't pick them.
I'll pick Mines.
They finished sixth. That wouldn't be that much of a surprise.
Yeah, but it'd be a big of a surprise if they do it again,
Well, that is true. Yeah, that
or
is
at
true.
least somewhere,
Yeah, that does
up
make
in the
sense.
upper mid table. You know.
Yeah, considering it tends to be a lot of times for these Bundesliga teams, if they finish European position and they're very unexpected, then they tend to drop down, like the last two times with like Union Berlin and Heidenheim recently.
That was actually my biggest disappointment for this season. Union Berlin.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I would say they technically disappointed last season, so I can't really say there will be a big disappointment. I think I don't think Werder is going to be that good, honestly. But I will say I'm with you.
They'll finish
I do
16th
think
or
Gladbach will
15th.
be one of the more disappointing teams, so it wouldn't surprise me if they are towards like the 14th, 15th position. I think in terms of maybe a team that could surprise us, I'd say by um by proxy, I'll just say Wolfsburg. I just think that like with the talent they have, like considering where they were a couple years back, I just think they're too talented to be sort of mid-table for this long. So I think, they've gotten a few pieces in, a few development pieces that have done well last season going into this year. So I think they'll rise up a bit, maybe challenging for a European spot again.
All right. Now it is time for the league that is so broke and so tight on FFP regulations. It is time for La Liga, or like Matt likes to call La Ligue ass. Going for this season, I'll let Matt take this one first. Again, who do you see winning the league?
Well, I think without a doubt it has to be Barcelona again because Hansi Flick is built
Yeah,
different.
flick ball.
And even though Barcelona have zero clue how to sign players, I still think that Joan
How to
Garcia is
sign?
really
No,
great.
Matt, that's not how it works. We don't have a clue. We have a clue how to sign players. We don't have a clue how to register them.
Okay, yeah, they
We're
don't
so
have no
broke.
they have no clue how to register
We are
players.
practically cutting our women's team. That's how
That's
broke we
crazy.
are.
But yeah,
And
I
our
mean,
women's team is one of the best women's teams in the world. So think
yeah,
about how
I
crazy
saw
that
news
is.
about that too. I remember like looking in one of the chats that I had for work and they were mentioning that. I was like, what happened there? And I guess, something about the finances, like trying to balance the books with 1 million, at least from what I saw. But yeah, regardless of that, I think Barcelona will still win the league. They still don't know how to register players, but I still think that Garcia will be a great signing at that goalkeeping position that they
The
desperately need.
women have to blame Ter Stegen because he's still
Ter
here. So
Stegen.
the women should blame Ter Stegen.
I think
Obviously, yeah. And then you
I
have
mean,
the
I think
the
one,
tough.
two, three is always the same every year. It's just like reverse order, maybe between one and two. So second, I have Madrid. Third, I have Atletico Madrid. I don't think Athletic Bilbao will get fourth. So
No,
I'm
Bilbao's
gonna go,
definitely not finishing fourth this
yeah.
season.
So I'm gonna go on a
If
limb.
anything, they might be the biggest disappointment. I think they might finish seventh or eighth.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm gonna go on a limb and say Real Betis will get that fourth spot.
Yeah, I would say Betis, and then maybe I would say my dark horse. I'm just gonna go ahead and say will probably be. I don't know if Villarreal really counts as much as a dark horse, but they've
I
always
mean, they
been a
made
team that's
Champions
pretty
League, so
fret.
it's not really a dark horse team.
Yeah, I'm gonna choose someone else. But yeah, my top three obviously Barca. Between the two Madrid sides, it's hard to say because I know Real Madrid have like heavily reinforced Hoysen, Trent Alexander-Arnold, but they've also lost Modric, so that's another key component of their
Yeah,
midfield essentially gone. Their attack is still well super frightening. We already pretty much know that. But if they really do try to get rid of Rodrigo, that's another piece out. And then who is going to be the one to take that right wing spot?
they still
Because
haven't technically replaced Kroos yet. Like,
well, you know, Cruz, Modric, two key midfielders, even Modric up there in age, and you don't have any of their profiles on the team. That's the thing. With Atletico, what I like is the fact that they actually heavily reinforce their team. Thiago Almeida, one of Argentina's brightest talents right now, has now signed for Atleti. Johnny Cardoso, another midfield reinforcement. Baena from Villarreal, another midfield slash winger reinforcement. This is a pretty stacked looking Atleti team. Obviously, when it comes to the terrorist known as Diego Simeone, you can't really count anything out because even with all these talents, he'll still somehow find a way to make it fail because of his terrorist tactics. But I don't think that it's really too far away. This might be me just absolutely shitting on the quality of Real Madrid, but I do think that this could be a pretty better season for Atletico. At the very least, I think they could push for a cup. I think this could really try to at least focus on the Copa, maybe. Um, and as far as my fourth place team goes, honestly, yeah, I'd probably either go with Betis or Villarreal, or the only real other team I could probably see pushing to that is probably maybe Girona. Um, as for biggest disappointment, will always be Getafe just because they exist. And or Espanyol. I'm honestly shocked how Espanyol stay. Well, to be fair, Joan Garcia is a beast.
Joan Garcia carried them.
My relegation for them will definitely be Sevilla. Sevilla is definitely up there. But I think Levante could go down,
I think
and the
Espanyol
next
surely they're gotta be
and
going down. I mean, they lost their biggest, piece, and it's like irreplaceable in the sense.
yeah, and definitely, and Sevilla, I believe, are looking to sell Luigi Bade just because they really need to get some names off to balance out their books. So I really think this
Yeah,
might be the year
Sevilla's
where
in a
Sevilla
deep
actually,
financial crisis
yes,
at
deep
this point.
financial crisis. So yeah, Sevilla for me, Levante for me, and Espanyol for me. Don't ask me how I still have Valencia staying up, But I mean, honestly, it's just a miracle.
Valencia always finds a way to stay up somehow.
Hmm. As for, well, I already said Liga Top is my biggest disappointment. My dark horse for the season, I'd say either Osasuna or Vallecano.
Yeah, Dark Horse is a very interesting one. I mean,
We've
I
seen Osasuna play European ball before, and we've also seen Vallecano get
yeah.
there as well. So
I
those
mean,
are
I
those are
already
my
expect
picks.
Girona to do better compared to last season, so I don't really count them as a dark horse. I mean, if I were picking one, like I don't think Sociedad does nearly as well because losing
Nah, I
Subomendi is
think they'll
going to be a
finish
big loss.
12th. Crazy
Yeah.
stat. I think they'll finish 12th.
I mean, I'd say, I'd be probably with you, Osasuna. Maybe Mallorca squeaks their way through as well.
That's
But I
fair.
think that would be probably the only two teams,
They picked up one of our guys. They picked up Pablo Torre, so that'll be a wonderful inclusion for their midfield. But yeah, so that's La Liga, and now we're gonna finish off with Serie A. Why? Because everyone knows what's gonna happen in Paris. I mean, in France. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just Paris. It's all Paris.
literally Paris and Marseille.
Hmm. So yeah, those are my predictions right there. And if you want to talk about relegation, who the cares? Sorry, France, but that's just kind of how it works. Serie A, who do I see winning this season? Whew, me. Oh, Siri turned on when I said Serie A, so that's actually hilarious. That's a hard one. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Napoli go for it again. Especially with Inter, they lost some of their guys as well.
Yeah, and I think they have to figure out a lot of stuff tactically in because like the Club World Cup, they looked very out of sorts, and it's not against like Chivu, who I think is a very promising manager, but it's like there's a lot for them to really figure out, especially after last season when they lost pretty much every final and then lost on the last day of the season to Napoli. I mean, how worse could
That
it have
just
gone?
absolutely crumbled. So I'd say between those two, I'm gonna say Napoli could clinch the title once again, especially with some of the guys that well, you have McTominay in there, obviously. That's don't get me wrong, but there was who did I know they signed. Keep forgetting. They signed someone that was actually really key for them, and someone that oh yes, De Bruyne.
Yeah,
They
De
signed
Bruyne.
literally the one of the best midfield, if not the best midfielder of this generation. They signed De Bruyne.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and they also
that
signed
fit with Conte, that's going to be absolutely,
they
that's
also
going to be
signed Noah
peak
Lang, who's a pretty good transfer from
from,
PSV
yeah,
too. Like don't yeah, they lost like of course Raspadori, who I think, of course something there, but I think
yeah,
easily you
Raspadori was
can
more
find
of
that
a me.
place.
Raspadori was more of a like a rotational backup. I don't think
Yeah.
that's such a huge loss.
Like that was probably the only main loss they had. So pretty much it's the same team plus De Bruyne plus Lang. And yeah.
If Inter can get Lookman, I think they'd be pretty set. I think that'd be a wonderful attacking addition. Yeah, I'm still sticking with Napoli. Then second place would be Inter. I would say third place, Juventus.
Yeah,
Only
I was
just
gonna say
because domestically wise, especially with Tudor and what we've seen so far, they don't look completely awful unless you play Vlahovic, except because that's already a mess altogether. With their guys and with Moani, when you have Yildiz, when you have Koshin Shao, I think this could be a little bit of a better season for them, at least in the domestic sense. Do I think they'll go far in the Champions League? Probably not. Do I
no.
think they could win a cup? Most definitely. Um, but yeah, I would say, Juventus do pretty well to finish third. Who do I see finishing fourth? I think Roma, just because they made a
I would
lot
say
of
so too.
acquisitions this
And
summer, and I
Gasparini,
think
I think, is a great hire as
yeah,
well.
Gasperini is a fantastic hire. So I really do think that with the team that they're forming now could be uh could be the jump needed to bring Roma back to not only just European football, but potentially Champions League football. Something
And
they haven't
also
seen in a
considering
pretty long
like
time.
and considering last season when they stumbled massively out of the gates to the point where they fired De Rossi after like 3, 4 matches.
Got De
And
Rossi,
then
they had
yeah,
to
their
bring
seat and then they had to bring in another guy in who they sacked after that. So they were in a lot of turmoil the first
You
10
talking
or
about
so
Ranieri?
games, and then they somehow finished fifth that season. So I think it's a no-brainer. They gotta very likely gonna make it to Champions League this time around with the manager who's very experienced and now with the board who's actually not stupid enough to sack a guy after 3 games.
Yeah. So those are top four. Who do I see getting relegated? Well, one of those is not going to be Como. I think Como will finish mid-table again, or maybe upper
Almost gonna be
mid-table. I
mid-table.
do like their team. I do like Fabregas and what he's done doing for them so far. So I would say, as far as relegation goes, I'm gonna go with Verona first, finishing last. I'm gonna go with Cremonese
Yep.
at 19th, and then I'm gonna go with Pisa at 15th.
Hmm.
I mean 18th. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the two that you mentioned, Pisa and Cremonense, I think they'll go down. I think Parma's a team that I have also going down. I just don't, think, with them, of course, they're about to lose one, possibly lose one of their defenders as well. So it's also a team that has struggled recently, and I think, given how close they were to the bottom last season, I think their magic sort of has run out, in that sense.
Fair enough, lad. All right. Well, that does it, guys. So we'll see how many L's that we both take, but also how many dubs we take. So we'll come back to this at the end of the season, of course, and we'll see how much it backfires, along with the rest of the team, because we are officially going to start. By the time Matthew moves to New York, we are officially bringing on new members of Worldwide Football to enjoy making these videos with us. And be sure to tune in next weekend where I'm volunteering and collaborating with Hungry for Change to promote a soccer barbecue event for my cousin's nonprofit and, of course, our wonderful soccer channel. Thank you guys for joining us. Be sure to tune in to more of our content. Hit like, comment, subscribe, and tune in to our other forms of social media, such as our TikToks, because we're on there all the time. Thank you guys very much. Be sure to say bye to Matthew when he finally leaves the shithole, and have a great rest of your night.